Welcome to my presentation. My name is Harun. I'm a postdoctoral researcher, a plant pathologist based in Nairobi. So the Pan-African variety trials are spread across a number of countries in Africa. And these are 16 countries and in more than 70 sites. And this provides multiple information, including in the occurrence of important diseases and pests. The soybean diseases resemble in terms of their symptoms, and therefore correct diagnosis is important for proper management. For this research, we did a survey in 17 sites across 6 countries, and we observed that the diseases and pests differ between sites and among countries. We also, we looked at the frequency of the diseases in the Pan-African variety trials in the season between 2019 and 2020. And we looked at the number of times a disease was observed in the 17 sites that we visited. And in this graph, we see that the Cercospora leaf blight was the most frequent, appearing in more than 15 sites out of the 17, followed by mustard leaf spot and soybean rust. Frog eye leaf spot and brown spot were observed in a few sites, about 3 or 2 sites during this survey. So we further went ahead to look at the severity of these diseases, and looking at this map, we have 4 diseases that are represented by different colors, and the circles represent the severity of each disease in the countries that they are observed. The bigger the circle, the higher the severity. And for instance, we see when we zoom in, we see that the soybean rust, which is blue in color, was observed in Malawi as well as in Kenya and Uganda. And when you look at the size of the circles, we see that the severity was higher in Eastern Africa compared to in Malawi. This could possibly be due to the difference in environmental factors that influence soybean rust establishment, or they could also be due to the presence of a population of soybean rust that is more aggressive in East Africa compared to Southern Africa. So we also concentrated on the most important diseases in Africa, which includes soybean rust, and this disease causes up to 80% yield losses because the lesions linked to yellowing of the leaves, and this links to this affects the photosynthetic efficiency. This, of course, affects the seed setting, flower setting, as well as spot filling and the seed size. This disease occurs in more than 10 countries in Africa, and we do not have any resistant commercial varieties that are available yet. So for severity, we used a 0 to 5 scale, where 0 means there are no visible symptoms, and 5 represent 91 to 100% of the canopy affected. And when we look at the genotypes planted in Kenya, Malawi, and Uganda, we see that the genotypes in Malawi are the higher severity, as well as those from Kenya, compared to those in Uganda. Another disease of importance is red leaf blotch. This disease is native to Africa, and it causes yield losses of over 50%. Similar to soybean rust, it is not, we do not know any sources of resistance, and it affects the photosynthetic efficiency of soybean. In this particular case, the disease was observed in 4 countries, Kenya, Malawi, Uganda, and Ethiopia. And the severity scale was based on 0 to 5. And for example, we see in Ethiopia, the severity of the genotypes planted in this site were between 3 and 5, which is high severity, compared to those that were planted in Kenya, which was between 1 and 1.1, a score of 1.1 to 1.1. Another disease of importance is frog eye leaf spot. Frog eye leaf spot was observed in at least in Ethiopia and Zambia, and it causes yield losses of up to 30%. We looked at the 20 genotypes that were planted in both Ethiopia and Zambia, and wanted to see if they have difference in terms of the severity, because Ethiopia is in Eastern Africa and Zambia is in Southern Africa. And what we observed is that some of the genotypes, especially the TGX, the severity was not significantly different. But when we look at some of the seed corn materials, the SC materials, we see some of them that had lower severity in Ethiopia compared to Zambia, and also some of them that had lower severity in Zambia and higher severity in Ethiopia. Some of these genotypes include Serenade, SC1150, and SC Saga, which are lower severity of less than 1.5. And this means that they might be potential sources of resistance, and further research is required to see if these varieties can be used for as sources of resistance in the breeding programs in Africa. The Pan-African variety trials also gave us an opportunity to see some of the emerging diseases. Soybean is a new crop in most regions in Africa, and so there could be new diseases that come up in this site. For example, you have mustard leaf spot, which is a disease that was observed in Brazil in 2012. It has also been observed in the US, in Illinois. And in Kenya, we've observed it in Zambia, in Malawi, Uganda, and in Kenya. We do not know what causes this disease, and also we do not know what impact it has on the soybean yield. The next disease is bacterial tongue spot, which has already been reported in common bean in Kenya, in South Africa, and in Tunisia and Africa. And on soybean, it was first reported in Zambia in 2019, but you've observed it in other countries like in Kenya and also in Uganda. Rhodesium leaf spot is another disease that was observed in Ghana in 2018. The distribution is not yet known, and also we do not know the impact on the soybean yield. So these and other diseases are emerging, and we need to do more research to see what impact they have on soybean and also their distribution. And finally, training, the Pan-African variety trials gave us an opportunity to train on disease and pest identification. And this is particularly important because the research technicians, the field extension officers in the sites which were in the institutions which were hosting the Pan-African variety trials, to some of them soybean is a new crop. And so identifying the diseases and pests might be a challenge. So we get that opportunity to train them on the common soybean diseases, how to identify them, and how to manage these diseases. Recent trainings include that was done in Pale in Malawi, Chitsese, and in 2019 we had trainings in Tamale and in Pawe. And in 2018, we had trainings in Zambia. So these trainings are important because it gives the practitioners or these extension officers the courage to be able to spot the diseases that are affecting soybean in their trials. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.